So, good day everybody. Welcome to another episode of Exploring Worlds. Today we're talking about nothing. Kirk, what's your view on nothingness?
Well...
Already very profound insights coming forward here. Ladies and gentlemen, please, I hope you're sitting at home watching this. Do not attempt to operate a motor vehicle during this. Back to you, Kirk.
Yeah, it's not something I've been thinking of frequently lately, but nothingness can be important, and in the right state of mind it can be peaceful. It can also be incredibly boring. And meaningless, I guess, right? But depending on where your mindset is at the time for it, I guess. Yeah, so I'll continue on. You can hold the camera up as long as you want, but I'll continue on with just being my version of nothingness, I guess. I'll say nothing.
I'm not really sure I quite understand your answer, Kirk. Could you elaborate?
Elaborate on what part?
On what nothingness is.
Well, basically, I was saying that it can be peaceful, it can be useful. Okay. It can also be boring. I think how it's perceived, or the proper usage of it, all depends on your state of mind and the reasons on why you're doing it. I mean, you can be embracing nothingness because you're in a bad place emotionally and you're retreating from everything. You could also be embracing nothingness because you want to sort of clear your mind, clear your thoughts, clear your energy, and just sort of rest with nothing for a few moments or a day or a week, longer, whatever level that you need, I guess. So and you can also be doing nothingness just because you're desperately bored and can't really find something to do, and you're just sort of out of whack, not got your head in the game for life, I guess, right? So it can be boring in that regard. It can be all kinds of things. I guess it all depends on why you're doing it and your state of mind behind it, I guess.
So when you say out of whack, what does that mean?
I don't know, just, when you're not...
Is there whacking? You're
out of whack. You've whacked it all out already.
It's all whacked out.
No, I mean, I guess just, when you're trying your best, but no matter what kind of activities you're trying to do, you can't complete them properly, and you're getting bored, and you're doing the best you can, and you maybe somewhat feel good that you're doing the best you can, but you're just not feeling like you're making the best impact on the day,
All right.
That's what out of whack is. I guess what I'm meaning by it anyway. I guess it could be out of whack.
Right. Well, that was a pretty wacky answer, so we thank you for your contributions to the world of nothingness, Kirk. Appreciate it. All right.
Sounds like a British thing.
English has so many words of like dual meaning.
Yeah.
Or what's the
What's the scoop here?
what's it called? The feature or the
Okay,
characteristics.
We're embracing nothingness.
Like a verb, noun, pronoun. Yeah.
It's a handy word.
That concludes another exciting interview with Kirk Prosick.
Recycling. So that's where I'm going on a Saturday. What are you guys up to?
Speak into it, PJ. So you're going to put some stuff in your locker, and
This is very uninteresting.
We're here today talking about
This is not a good movie. This is
we're here today talking about the reactions that these two individuals have with caffeine.
well, you start off, PJ. Go for it.
It's good and it's bad. It's a double-sided, whatever, sword.
Double-sided sword.
A double-edged sword.
Double-edged sided
Gets me going
sword.
in the morning, but it can finish me off if I have too much of it. I remember though I used to edit film, all day long, and the kitchen was down the hall. It was just one of those drip pots, and I drink coffee all day. Didn't do anything to me. But I make it the coffee now. I make it the coffee really strong. Yeah, I've got a combination. I got a formula. I got the Coast coffee up there from the supermarket, plus straight coffee from Wilson Creek, plus this flavored coffee. You know, like vanilla or whatever. It's Vancouver company, just to give it a taste. It tastes like expensive coffee, like when you go into a expensive restaurant, you get a coffee at the end of the meal.
Yeah.
At the end of your $200 meal. The coffee always tastes good. I think it's because they put a little bit of that vanilla flavoring. So that's what I had this morning or yesterday. And I came over here at Joe's Espresso Bar here, and he made me a super coffee, and that and went home, and my rest is X-rated.
Right. Hello. We understand that Joe's Coffee has put us out. I actually recently had one of Joe's coffees and never slept for 3 days.
So yeah, that can happen. That caffeine can stay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I once had in Mazatlan, great cafe bar, really strong coffee. Love it. Every morning. But one morning it was just too strong, and I couldn't drink. I couldn't drink coffee for 2 weeks. And yeah, sleep problems. Yeah, forget it. Forget about it.
Forget about
So
it.
today, no coffee.
All right.
Drinking herbal tea.
Okay, well, this interview has been brought to you by Juan Valdez and the Coffee Plantations of South
Fair
America.
trade, yeah.
Kirk, do you have anything to add to the wisdom of Juan Valdez?
No, not particularly on that, but yeah, no, on the subject of coffee itself, I love coffee.
No, Vancouver.
I usually have coffee every morning. It helps me wake up. I like the taste of it. It's a pleasant supplement for the morning time. But I like weaker coffee. I don't like very strong coffee because I'm very, very sensitive to caffeine. If I have too many cups of coffee or have really, really strong coffee, I'll be bouncing off the walls, and my nerves are tense and clenching my jaw and shaking and just way too hyper, way too excited, way too overstimulated. So I like a weaker cup of coffee.
Right.
So technically I would drink coffee that like real coffee connoisseurs would sort of throw away as like garbage coffee or not good or whatever, but and they're probably right along the lines of flavoring and history of it and aromas and all this fancy kind of stuff that they get into, which is great for them, but I take it simply because it generally has a weaker dose of caffeine to it. So
All right. Well, just enjoy the weak dose, I guess.
yeah, exactly.
All right. Thank you, Kirk.
Thank you.
Well, hello everybody. We're here on another exciting episode of Exploring Worlds. Today we're talking about time travel. Kirk, if you could time travel anywhere in time, where would you go and why?
I definitely go to the past. I'd like to see medieval Europe. Make sure I was dressed and had the funds to be an upper class person though, instead of otherwise life wouldn't be too good, but I'd like to find myself in some of the lavish castles and suited up in the nice fancy shiny armor, and yeah, like 15th century Europe, 15th century England, something like that. Might travel back and see what the Egyptians were doing, again, as an upper class person, not as a lower class person. Maybe go back to just like, I don't know, a couple of generations before me, say your era, Peter, see, get some first-hand knowledge on what you people are always talking about, going on about all the time.
Right. The 60s were pretty exciting.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely check out some stuff like that. I don't think I'd go to the future. And I don't mean that in like a bleak, like I don't want to see the future kind of way. Like I have some optimism in my mentality, but I just don't think it would interest me as much, or maybe it would be interesting to see like a few years ahead or something, just to see where things are at or whatever, but I wouldn't go beyond my lifetime, like into the 3000s or 4000, however the years work, beyond all that. I wouldn't really, I'm not a sci-fi person. When it comes to the genre of storytelling, I'm not a sci-fi person. I'm more of like a fantasy / historical drama kind of a guy. So I'd like to see the past more so than the future, I think. Like,
All right.
I'm not Star Wars fan, I'm a Lord of the Rings fan or Game of Thrones fan or whatever, right? So
I do find it really interesting on the Lord of the Rings that a 14-hour movie, or 18 hours, or 47 hours, all to get rid of a ring, and yet we live in a culture and a time where rings are of great, great importance.
there's so much more. If you want to talk Lord of the Rings, that would be a whole other interview in its own, because there's so much more depth behind the meaning of the ring and the whole story altogether. That would take a long time to talk about, and has all kinds of ins and outs and ups and downs and metaphors and for things in life and people and of history, and all kinds of things come into play with that. It's for somebody who's just kind of a distant viewer of it, it might seem that way, but the ring symbolizes a lot of things besides just an evil ring that needs to be destroyed.
So you don't think it's any bearing on marriages where people get rings, and maybe it's a secret plea to not get married?
No, if you know the history of the author, Tolkien, that would be the last thing that he tried. He was very traditionalist, very Catholic. That's the last message he would try to get out there. And it might have some connotations to it along the lines of marriage and its symbolism to a certain point, but I don't believe that's again, it's up for many interpretations, I guess, but that is probably very minimal in its insinuations, I guess, right?
Would you like to time travel into the Lord of the Rings? Maybe you could be sort of Frodo's friend. You could be Sam.
I'd love to.
Yeah.
I'd love to. Actually, if you could travel to fictional worlds, that's the first place I'd go.
Love it. All right. Well, there's a lot to explore here on Exploring Worlds, as always, and time travel is one thing that I think we will continue on. Thank you, Kirk, for your contributions today.
Thank you, Peter.
All right.
All right. Well, hello, everybody. So here I'm sitting with Vernon Hugh, and he is a major sci-fi fantasy story fan. And, and he's here to talk about his most favorite films, books, all on the subject, and give his take on time travel.
Thank you, Kirk, for the introduction. Except I am quite the opposite of what he described.
It's deliberate, guys.
I haven't watched any fantasy movies that describe things that are not in line with reality. So I'm a reality. So in terms of time travel, I have no idea what that is, and I have no idea who invented it. So probably I'm the wrong person to be interviewed on
So
this
what about
topic.
the idea of time travel outside of movies? If you could travel anywhere in time, where would you travel to?
Anywhere in time, I would say, I don't know, because I've never given any thoughts about things like that's not reality, right? Time travel. If I have to answer that question, probably I wanted to go to 90. Go to Germany pre World War II,
Okay.
because lots of things happened that impacted the world history. So I would like to be part of it, part of the history, because I'm very interested in learning about how Hitler came to power and how he launched the war and how the war spread into the world. So probably as a fan of history, I would like to time travel to that period and that location.
Okay, but we actually know how Hitler came to power because it was the corporations.
No, I mean I wanted to be part of it. I want to experience it.
Okay.
Yeah.
On
Okay.
what side?
As an observer.
As an observer.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, we can work with that.
Yeah.
Kirk, what about your interest in going back to Germany?
It's not at the forefront of my mind enough to speak too heavily into that. In present day Germany, I've never been, but I have a really close friend who lives there. A really good musician, actually. So I go there to visit him. But yeah, I certainly wouldn't want to be there during World War II. And I guess it would be interesting if you were to be in a safe place and you could be, like Vernon said, just like an observer of Hitler becoming into power and what the mindset was at the time, and that it would be interesting and you'd come back with a lot of knowledge. But I think I would choose some more, what would be the word? Because a lot of the other places I said I would go to aren't necessarily peaceful either, but I would choose some more extravagant places and things to go see, I guess. I mean, that's pretty just straight up bleak with not a lot of well, I'm freezing on the words, but like not a lot of intrigue behind it, I guess, other than just how terrible something is, which is valuable to learn about too, right? So but yeah, I haven't thought too heavily into that exact subject matter that Vernon brought up along the lines of traveling to places and different times and stuff like that. So I'm not entirely sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we have some interesting ideas here. Thank you, Kirk. Thank you, Vernon. Welcome everybody to another episode of Exploring Worlds with Mr. Kirk Prosick. Today we're talking about sea life and how much Kirk absolutely loves the world of the ocean and the sea and all these types of things. Am I right, Kirk?
That's correct, I do, yeah.
And so recently Kirk's been talking a lot about bringing home crabs, and we're wondering, Kirk, how are your crabs doing?
Well, I don't know. That might be that might get us shut down if I start talking about that.
So you don't want to talk about your crabs today?
Yeah, well, no. Here on the Sunshine Coast, we have the Dungeness crab, we have the spider crab, and there's a couple of others too, which I'm freezing on the names off the top of my head. But generally, what most likely what you're going to see is the Dungeness crab. They get fairly large, about that big, orange in color.
Okay.
And they hurt really bad when they bite you.
Okay.
And they're very good eating. They're very tasty.
Okay.
And they're also a really cool animal. Besides the food and all that kind of stuff, they're a cool animal. And then the spider crabs, generally you find them further down the coast, out past Seashell, in Roberts Creek and things like that. And they're in very, very deep water. And the more seaweed in an area, the more likely you are to find spider crabs, because they tend to kind of clip onto the seaweed with their legs, and that's why they call them spider crabs, because they have really flexible legs. They can wrap around stuff, and really long legs, like really long thin legs, and a small body. A full-grown one's body is only about that big, and then it's got these great big spider legs that come off of it that are really thin. And it's good for climbing on things and grabbing onto seaweed and stuff like that.
Very informative. We're wondering though, when they're really itchy, like how do you get rid of the itch?
I guess you got to get into the salt water.
Free the crabs.
Free the crabs, yeah.
Well, we admire your courage in the face of the crabs, Kirk. We support you. We're really happy that they're under control, and we thank you for your insightful, incredible amount of information. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're needing to know anything about crabs, Kirk is the guy to give you all those answers. Thank you, Kirk.
Thank you, Peter. So, Mr. Peter R. Nichols, the one that's buckling down heavy here on the time travel, what's your thoughts now that you're in front of the camera, not behind it?
I would like to travel back to the Garden of Eden.
Ah, wonderful answer, actually.
And I would tell Adam, don't eat the apple. because that's been the cause of so much of our situation, our problems in the world today. It all started with the apple, and we've been fucked ever since. Thank you. That's all I got to say about it.
Wonderful answer, Peter.
Thank you.
Okay, so that's wonderful, Peter, but another question came to my mind. So if an absolutely smoking hot, drop dead gorgeous woman encouraged you to eat an apple and basically said that you know, she would be very sensual with you if you partook in this action, you would still refuse the apple? You're strong enough to do that?
Well, I would have to really examine her apples.
What if they were the best apples you've ever seen?
I might have to take a bite or two.
Then you're contributing to the world being fucked, I guess.
My middle name is Adam.